Welcome back to the Prime Field podcast, where we tackle the no-holds-barred truth on the world of sports. Today we're diving into a story that has the entire basketball community buzzing: the WNBA's controversial treatment of one of its biggest stars, Caitlin Clark. Let me set the scene for you. Caitlin Clark, the dynamic point guard for the Seattle Storm, has been single-handedly carrying the WNBA on her shoulders. Her electrifying play, her charisma, and her ability to draw in viewers have made her the league's undisputed superstar. But instead of embracing this newfound star power, the WNBA seems determined to rein her in. It all started with a seemingly innocuous technical foul. Clark, understandably frustrated with her own performance, dared to show some emotion by punching the padding underneath the goal. And for that, she was hit with a technical foul by the referee. Now you might be thinking, well, that's just part of the game. But hold on, because this is where things get truly absurd. The WNBA's rules state that a player is suspended for a game after accumulating 7 technical fouls in a season. And with this latest transgression, Clark is dangerously close to that threshold. Barroom sports enthusiast Dave Portnoy is so outraged by this that he's put a $100,000 bet on Clark's Indiana Fever to win the WNBA title, just to show his support. But the WNBA's actions here are truly baffling. They're essentially putting the league's biggest draw at risk of missing games, all because she had the audacity to show some emotion on the court. As Clark herself pointed out, she wasn't directed her frustration at anyone else. It was just a personal moment of disappointment. But the WNBA saw fit to punish her for it. And the worst part is, this isn't an isolated incident. The league has a history of cracking down on its stars, seemingly intent on keeping them in check. Former players like Noel Quinn, the Seattle Storm's coach, have spoken out, frustrated by the WNBA's apparent inability to see the bigger picture. The question is, what is the WNBA thinking? This is their chance to truly capitalize on the growing popularity of the sport, to showcase their stars and build a loyal fan base. But instead, they're seemingly doing everything in their power to hold their biggest attraction back. It's a move that has left the entire basketball community scratching their heads. As one commenter aptly put it, the WNBA is literally putting a game in which Caitlin Clark could actually play at risk, all because of some Bush League calls. It's a level of pettiness that is hard to fathom, especially for a league that desperately needs to grow its audience and attract new fans. So what's the solution? Well, if I were Caitlin Clark, I'd seriously consider starting my own damn league. The WNBA has clearly shown that they don't know how to handle a star of her caliber, and she deserves better. Perhaps it's time for the players to take matters into their own hands and create an environment where their talents can truly shine. Until then, the WNBA will continue to be the butt of jokes, a league that can't seem to get out of its own way. It's a shame, really, because there's so much potential here. But if the powers that be can't figure out how to nurture and support their biggest stars, then the whole enterprise may just crumble under the weight of its own short-sightedness. But let's dig a little deeper into this story, because there's so much more to unpack. The WNBA's treatment of Caitlin Clark is just the latest chapter in a long history of the league, struggling to find its footing and support its most marketable players. Take a look at the case of Angel Reese, another rising star in the WNBA. Reese, who plays for the Indiana Fever, has been making waves with her dominant play and charismatic persona. And just like Clark, the league seems intent on keeping her in check. When Reese reached out to Clark on social media, trying to convince her to return to the Chicago Sky, Clark's response was nothing short of shocking. She flat-out rejected Reese's offer and even went so far as to suggest that Reese should play for a different organization altogether. The reason? Clark felt that the Chicago Sky did her dirty during her time with the team. Now, that's a pretty bold statement, especially coming from a player who was once a cornerstone of the franchise. It suggests that there's some serious bad blood between Clark and the organization, and that the issues she had with the Sky run deep. But here's the thing, this isn't just about Caitlin Clark or the Chicago Sky. It's about a larger problem within the WNBA, a league that has struggled to create an environment where its stars feel truly valued and respected. Think about it. How many times have we seen talented WNBA players opt to take their talents overseas, where the pay is often better and the treatment is more consistent? It's a trend that speaks volumes about the challenges facing the league and the disconnect between the aspirations of the players and the priorities of the league's leadership. And the sad truth is, this isn't just a problem for the players. It's a problem for the league as a whole. When your biggest stars feel underappreciated and disrespected, it's a recipe for disaster. The WNBA needs to find a way to bridge that gap, to create a culture where players feel supported, valued, and empowered to be the best versions of themselves. But that's easier said than done. The WNBA has long been overshadowed by the NBA, and it's had to fight for every inch of attention and respect it's earned. And in that struggle, it seems like the league has sometimes lost sight of the very players who could help it break through to the mainstream. Take the case of Brittney Griner, for example. Griner, a dominant center and one of the WNBA's most recognizable faces, was detained in Russia for nearly a year, sparking an international outcry. But even in the midst of that crisis, there were questions about whether the WNBA was doing enough to support her and advocate for her release. It's a pattern that's been all too common in the league's history, a seeming inability to properly nurture and elevate its biggest stars, even in the face of adversity. And it's a pattern that's only going to continue to haunt the WNBA unless something changes. So what's the solution? Well, for starters, the WNBA needs to take a long, hard look at its own priorities and values. Is the league truly committed to creating an environment where its players can thrive, both on and off the court? Or is it more focused on the bottom line, on maintaining a certain level of control and conformity? It's a tough question to grapple with, but it's one that the league's leadership needs to tackle head-on. Because if they don't, they risk losing not just their biggest stars, but the entire foundation upon which the WNBA is built. At the end of the day, the WNBA is at a crossroads. It has an opportunity to truly capitalize on the growing popularity of the sport, to showcase its incredible talent and capture the hearts and minds of fans across the country. But to do that, it needs to get out of its own way, to stop punishing its stars for showing emotion and start empowering them to be the best versions of themselves. The choice is theirs. Will they rise to the occasion and create a league that truly celebrates its superstars? Or will they continue down the path of petty jealousy and short-sightedness, ultimately dooming the WNBA to irrelevance? Only time will tell, but one thing is certain: the eyes of the basketball world are watching, and the stakes have never been higher. Thanks for tuning in, folks. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe.